have among us a professional counselor for children, an adolescent and parent coach, Ms. Chandrika Iyer. So today she will be speaking on the topic emotional literacy, key to a successful school system. Ms. Chandrika is a counselor with over 3 decades of experience in the field of education. She passionately believes in the inclusion of social and emotional intelligence skills in the school and college curriculum and offers programs in the emotional literacy to children and young adults. So, ma'am, you may start now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Divyansh, for introducing me. And today's topic, emotional literacy. So let's see what it is all about and why it is such an important aspect of mental health. So what is emotional literacy all about? So it basically is the ability for you to be able to recognize and express your emotions. And what do we mean by that? We mean we should be able to name these emotions, understand what each emotion feels like, and what causes these emotions. And the second part of this ability would be to be able to communicate these emotional states and the associated feelings that these emotions bring. And very importantly, to be able to learn the emotional vocabulary that you need to be able to express these states, both to yourself and to others, and to help cope with these emotions. So emotional literacy would involve all of this. And when I talk about when I talk about emotions, what are we talking about? So we are looking at some core emotions. So there are about 7 core emotions like anger, fear, sadness, joy, disgust, excitement, sexual excitement. So the ability to recognize these emotions. And if you are unable to do so and unable to express it, or unable to even recognize it, then what happens is then we put in place the inhibitory emotions like anxiety or fear, guilt, shame. And then we also develop, we also have defenses. And what are defenses? These are brilliant creative maneuvers of the mind to spare us the pain of these overwhelming emotions and sort of to protect us. And some of these defenses are healthy, they are adaptive, they are useful, but some of these defenses could also be very self-defeating. So, and why is it so important to name an emotion? Why is this emotional vocabulary so important? Because just the very act of being able to recognize and name the emotion, it sort of helps our bodies and our minds to relax. And there is sufficient scientific evidence to show us that this process actually helps to change the brain, and it helps, in decreasing the arousal that some of these emotions generate in our bodies, and also helps us, employ our rational thinking skills. And so what's the rationale for, wanting to include this as part of the literacy program? What is the rationale for it to be part of not just the school curriculum? And in my opinion, it needs to be part of even the college curriculum. Because this kind of education or this kind of learning does not happen automatically. It just doesn't. And just look at the kind of world that we are currently living in. As it is, there is so much change in the world. I mean, that it's a normal part of life, change. And the children, as it is, young adults, as it is, have to cope with the typical milestones of childhood and growing up. The brain is changing rapidly. There's an influx of hormones. And as it is, they find all of these things challenging. And then add to that the kind of challenges that they have faced in the last year and a half due to the pandemic. it is, there's been is increasing studies and increasing evidence, stories to show us that there's been such a decline in the mental well-being of children and young adults. And so it's so imperative that as educators, we equip our children with skills on how to deal with these challenges. It becomes part of our responsibility to ensure that children learn these skills, right? So that they have the ability to be able to face these challenges, all the challenges that life is throwing at them constantly. And so like I said, there is no better time than now to start to make this a regular part of the curriculum. Now we spend years and years teaching children skills in math and science and the core STEM subjects, but emotional education is like the foundation of on which you kind of build the other skills. And I think I'm hoping that going forward, that all schools recognize how important this aspect of education is. It's not that some schools have not already started. There are quite a few schools that do recognize this and do offer it, but a very, very low percentage of schools do this currently. So, and what is this emotional literacy? What does it include? What would a curriculum of this nature include? It would include aspects of self-acceptance. So what does self-acceptance mean? It means being self-aware, being able to offer validation for your own emotions, being compassionate, understanding choice, and about self-worth. So, I was hearing the panel previously, all the speakers, where there were so many of these issues that were coming up in the talk, and feelings. Under teaching children what feelings are about, how do they arise, these feelings? How do these feelings feel in my body? What are these feelings telling me? Why are they coming? What does it want me to know about myself? And who is responsible for these feelings that arise? And it definitely include beliefs and behavior. Now, what are beliefs? Now, there is a difference between thoughts and beliefs. Now, thoughts are something that you can see. If I ask somebody, what are you thinking? They will be able to tell me. But beliefs are something that are more deeply held in the subconscious. And it's not, but the thoughts arise from the kind of beliefs you hold. So let's say, for example, if, when we look at beliefs, we look to see if the belief that a person holds is rational or irrational, if it is helpful or if it is self-limiting. So let's say there's a situation where a child has failed an exam, and we were talking about failure in the last discussion. So if there is, so how do you face this how do you face failure? And we've seen that children face failure in many, many ways. So if the situation is the same, like if there's a child who has failed the exam, why is it that so many children are reacting to this, behave differently? What is the cause? That's when we start to look at beliefs. So if you have a belief that I must not fail, and if I fail, I'm a failure, then that kind of belief becomes a very, very irrational belief, because failure is a part of life. But if you've got, beliefs are formed because of the kind of messages that children receive throughout their lives. And these messages can come from the caregivers, from the adults in their lives, from their environment. It can come from any place. But if a child has a belief that I should not fail, and if I fail, I'm a failure, then obviously this child is going to, and it's going to affect the child's sense of self. But if there is a child who believes that, yes, I should not fail, but it doesn't mean that I'm a failure, and if he has such a belief or she has such a belief, then that belief obviously is more flexible. And that in turn will impact the behavior of the child. And the child is not going to consider themselves as failures, but instead could look at the failure as something that they could learn from. So everything sort of trickles down to the beliefs they hold. And these beliefs can be about three types. One is, what beliefs do you have about yourself? What beliefs do you have about others in your life? And what beliefs do you have about the world around you? And behaviors stem from these kind of beliefs. So if you have an education that can help you look at your own beliefs and help you recognize which of them are rational, which of them are not, which of them do I hold rigidly, which of them I could make more flexible, then that would in turn impact your behavior, right? And promote, and definitely that in turn would promote the next quality, which is how do you teach children to problem solve? How do you help them to make decisions? Now, this is a very, very important skill, and it has to be taught to children. How do you negotiate conflicts? You know, how do you communicate? I was listening to how everybody felt that communication is such an important part of education. And it's only with the right kind of communication will you be able to actually solve problems or even make decisions, for that matter. And then we look at another part of emotional literacy, which is interpersonal relationships. And this is so, so important, especially for children, in relationships that they share with their parents, relationship they share with their peers, and all the kind of changing relationships that they have over their growing years, and the ability to recognize which relationship is healthy for me, which is not, the ability to draw boundaries. I find that children really struggle, and so do parents for that matter, struggle with the concept of boundaries. So helping them with all these issues. And so this is what emotional literacy would in a broad way include. And there are so many benefits to teaching emotional literacy. Number one, you can see a marked change in the confidence of the child. And very important, the ability to tolerate frustration. There are so many children, especially the culture that we are living in, this instant culture where you get everything like this. You want to eat a dosa, you can order it. In the earlier times, you had to wait for an entire day to make a dosa. So, but today you can order it, and you'll get it at your doorstep in half an hour. So the ability to our ability to tolerate frustration has become really, really low, and more so. And as it is children, it's not easy for them, because their emotional brains are far more, strong, far more potent than their rational brains, which is here, your prefrontal cortex, which takes time to develop. So their ability to tolerate frustration, and right now with the kind of the pandemic time, it has really reached very high levels. The frustration levels are really high, and then in turn, of course, it can manifest into a whole lot of other problems. So by offering them these skills, to teach them, you can actually teach them how to be able to tolerate frustration. And then the ability to handle being alone. There's been so much isolation that has happened, in these past year and a half. And it has been a very, very difficult time for us and for everyone, in fact. And how do you handle that? And how do you engage in less self-destructive behaviors? So, especially in teenage, where your emotion run high, and a lot of children are not able to take the pain that they are going through. So you do see some risky behaviors. You do see them in engaging in a lot of self-destructive behaviors. And one of the benefits of this skill, teaching them the skill, is to teach them, okay, what do I do? How do I tolerate this distress? And most importantly, I think this would be something that most parents would agree that and would also recommend, if we say that this kind of emotional literacy makes children focus much better on tasks, and that in turn leads to greater academic achievement, for sure. And and like it has a cascading effect on every aspect of your life, and better control of internal impulses, especially in teenage. It's the time when, like I said, children could be prone to taking on risky behaviors, because not every child has the cognitive ability to be able to look at perspectives in a situation. What happens if I drive the car too fast? What if I cross a red light? So big deal. So, all of these kind of impulses that you can have, and you are able to better control such impulses. And, it paves the way for you to have better relationships, healthier relationships with everyone, with your siblings, with your parents, with your girlfriends, boyfriends. So the benefits are huge. I've just listed a few, but there are plenty more benefits to offering emotional literacy. So we now come to an important question: is, okay, fine, we get all this, we know that it's important. So now, how do we do this? How do I teach this? So I was an educator for a long time, 25 plus years. And these were the questions that I kept asking, how do we make it a part of the curriculum? What can I use to teach children these skills? And this was my time in Australia. So I came across the tool of cognitive behavior therapy. And I think that it's a wonderful tool to be able to teach children. And I have noticed in my years of practice that they take to it very, very well. So what is cognitive behavior therapy? It's an evidence-based practice. It's very goal-oriented. It's very structured, and children like that. What we look at here is what is the premise of cognitive behavior therapy? It's that your thoughts create your feelings, and then your feelings create your emotions, and your emotions bring about behaviors. You could also look at say a certain behavior could in turn also increase emotions and make you feel better. So we help. These are tools that will help you to look at what am I thinking right now, and a lot of the times what we look at is look at the cognitive distortions that arise, and this is very, very common. I mean, all of us have these cognitive distortions, and what kind of cognitive distortions do we have? There's so many. You awfulize, you have tunnel vision, you catastrophize. There's black and white thinking. So we teach them that, you can have different kinds of thoughts, and every kind of thought will create a different kind of feeling. And then we also teach them that thoughts are coming, thoughts, are not just random all the time. They are coming from some of the beliefs that you hold. So, and by changing those beliefs, you can change those thoughts. Okay, you can stop catastrophizing about everything that you're going through. Okay, you can stop you can look at something, a behavior which you normally do, which could be blaming or judging, comparing. So why am I doing this, and how can I stop it? And what is causing this? So cognitive behavior therapy is an excellent tool to be able to teach children. And of course, when we talk of emotional literacy, just like how you talk of how you impart education in math and science, it's very age appropriate. It has to match the development of the brain. It's very much tuned to being, these are tools that you can offer to children, of different ages, right from the time they are 5 or 6 years old, right through to them being young adults. And it's a very, very powerful transformative tool that you could use to teach these skills to children and young adults. And then, of course, there's dialectical behavior therapy, which again is completely skill-based. Here again, the basis of this therapy is mindfulness. You have the core of it is the foundational skill is mindfulness. And here we look at two kinds of skills in mindfulness, which is the how do I do this and what do I do in mindfulness. Okay, so we teach them the what skills, which is observing something and describing it and participating in it, and helping them to become aware of their present moment non-judgmentally, right? So these are again tools that you can actually teach them, and a lot of other skills are included in this, like interpersonal, all the ones that I told you about, interpersonal skills, emotional regulation skills. And another very important skill is, it's called the middle path skills, about how you can walk the middle path. And this is basically, I was listening to the conversation earlier where they was, talking about how do we communicate our needs and how the parent communicate their needs. How do we find a middle ground? How do we come to this middle path? And there is a tool, there's a skill which DBT teaches us, how do we do this? How do we get parents and children on board? And how do we help them negotiate the conflicts that arise? Yeah. And then you have mindful.
So sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah.
I wish we had more time, but we are only left with 3 to 4 minutes.
I'm done with it. So this, and the other tools like mindfulness, art therapy, you can use any of these tools to improve your own sense of well-being and feel better about yourselves. So that's the end of my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you so much for this amazing talk, ma'am, wherein you explained how do we go about expressing our feelings and our thoughts. So thank you for an amazing talk. So let's begin with the Q&A session. So the first question that I have for you is, ma'am, as you told, that we should be expressing our emotions or our feelings that we are going through. Like, for example, we should be expressing our joy, our anger, our happiness, all of the emotions that we're going through. So in a society like this, how should we go about expressing? Because, we at the back of mind, we do have a fear that if we would express our depressing thoughts or something like that, so the society would be judging us or something like that. So how should we be expressing that in a way that, it makes our point clear to the one whom we are expressing?
Yeah, so see, first of all, you've got to recognize the emotion that you're going through. So if it is see, we all go through different kinds of emotions. So if it's an emotion of anger, let's say, so you've got to first, know that that is the emotion that you are. You can say to yourself, I am getting angry, or I am angry. Okay. And like I said, the very giving voice to that emotion itself will help you, sort of become calmer. All right. And what am I angry about? You first need to figure out what you're angry about. Okay. And then you do then have the choice of then looking at what kind of behaviors do you want to sort of, what is the goal? Let's say you want to talk to your parents about something. Okay, you're angry about something and you want to talk to your parents. And then you decide, okay, what is the best way for me to be able to communicate this emotion of anger in a way that doesn't jeopardize my relationship with my parents? So again, it comes down to you recognizing your emotion and looking at why you're feeling angry, and then also looking at the best way to be able to communicate this to your parents.
Yeah, absolutely, ma'am. Like, recognizing is the best key to express out our emotions. So the next question that I have for you is that, how would you assess the existing level of emotional literacy in India?
There is no such right now. Like I said, we need to introduce these programs as part of the curriculum. And like I said, there are very, very few schools that are offering this as part of the curriculum. See what happened? Why am I insisting it be part of the curriculum? Because it sort of validates the importance of this. Okay, it's like it's when you say, oh, this is another subject that I need to study, just like math or science, and it's as important, if not more, and it's being offered to me, as part of my school curriculum, then, the importance of it comes home, not just to you, but also to your parents. Okay, and it reduces your emotional vulnerability because you are able to talk about your emotions freely. You're able to say, I'm not feeling okay right now, and you're not going to be ridiculed for it, or you're not going to be invalidated for it. Okay, so I'm see, as far as I know, there are very few schools who are giving this kind of, offering this kind of program. Maybe they offer workshops, for anxiety, and workshops for depression and things like that. But very few are, it's actually on the curriculum. Like it's not like a subject that's being taught.
So thank you so much, ma'am, for just amazing thoughts and facts. So this brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much, ma'am.